Hey everybody, I am your boy Big O,
And I'm Gary.
and
I'm Lavender Lizzie, aka Liz.
this is another awesome and amazing episode of Triple B Bearded Blurred Brothers. I almost lost it. All right, so if y'all listen to our podcast, we've had Miss Fabulous Lavender Lizzie on before, and we talked about mental health and just how detrimental it is to excuse me, go into therapy, really take a hold of your mental health, really take your mental health seriously because it really is a major part of your lifeline. So we have Miss Lavender Lizzie back as a part two to our episode, Let's Talk Therapy. Liz, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Oh crap. Y'all have to excuse me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a bit nervous. I
It's
got a
all
case
good.
of the nervousness. But a little bit about me. From St. Louis, mental health advocate, um, project manager, daughter, aunt, godmother, girlfriend, you know. But no, seriously. So I have my own podcast, Adulting Sucks, right? Where I kind of share a bit of the things that I struggle with, like adulting, but while dealing with depression and anxiety. So I have a candid take on the things that go on in my life and things in the past, and just sharing my life's journey with everybody else's to make their lives just a little bit better. So yeah, hopefully that gives people a little something about me. But yeah.
Yeah, we love to hear it. Gee, what we gonna get into today with this therapy? Like, how we gonna break it down today?
All right. So I figure that we have what 3 or 4 topics that we're going to talk about, specifically hitting the mental health of specific demographics, starting out with women, then jumping into people of color, and then I want to talk about something that I think is important to kind of round this out, and that's the topic of healing childhood trauma,
Ooh,
and how important that is to your growth as an individual and as an adult. And really focus on that in the vein of mental health for women and people of color. So that's kind of how I want to go down the rabbit hole, so to speak, to give people the opportunity to kind of hear from different perspectives on those specific topics.
right.
Okay. Those are all great topics. And I mean, honestly, we could spend hours talking about
Yeah.
each and every one of them. So I will upfront, I will try my best not to be as wordy because especially with the childhood trauma, because that can be a three-part series on its own. So yeah, which one did you want to start with?
All right. So we're going to jump off with the impact of women's mental health.
Ooh.
So specifically, I want to talk about the nature, and it's kind of funny that we're bringing this up after everything that's been going on with social media with um, the situation with Kiki Palmer and her boyfriend, and the situation with Jonah Hill and his ex girlfriend and all of that. So,
Yeah.
uh, Liz, I want you to kind of give us your perspective in regards to like what it's like to be a woman and deal with mental health in the world today, and some things that women deal with that specifically a lot of men don't understand or don't relate to.
Yeah.
Okay, are that's a great question. Um, it's hard out here being a woman. I just want to say that. And lately, women have just been getting it from all angles. You know, not only is it hard being a woman, but then let's add that I'm a black woman, and that just adds a whole nother layer of complexity. But I don't know, at times it feels like as women we're fighting with societal standards on how we should present ourselves, how we should be in relationships, how we should dress, how we should wear our hair, how we need to speak and conduct, and just a lot of like so much is put on us. And I guess I'll go into touch on the Kiki Palmer and the Jonah Hill situation. So I mean, with those two situations, they both mirror the same thing:
Mhm.
insecure men. Um, it's it's kind of hard, and I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole of you men, you men, you men, you men. So I'm that's not to overgeneralize, and I'm not even. And I'll say this up front: anything that I'm saying is not including. If this doesn't pertain to you, then it doesn't pertain to you. It pertains to the ones that have these issues. So it really comes down to a lot of men are very insecure, um, and especially in the presence of a woman such as those two women, like Kiki Palmer. She's been a child actress, like, she's been around since a kid for like almost 30 years now. And so, she has accolades, she has music, she has movies, and now she has stepped into this mommyhood. And here you have a partner that is not a millionaire, and I'm pretty sure that can cause like some insecurity issues. Um, and somebody trying to have authority or autonomy over, somebody's body and what they can and can't do, and shaming her publicly.
Yeah.
Like, you're a mother, don't wear that dress. And like, she was just going out having some fun with the girls. And, he wasn't saying that when she was pregnant and she had on that cat suit and she was clapping them cheeks, and he was, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it was cool until he went with Usher, just like in the Boondocks with Tom.
It
He
was
might
cool until the shoe was on the other foot.
Right.
he
Right.
might have been singing in the rain with his neighbors because he was
Right.
really, it screamed that I'm insecure. I feel a certain type of way, and instead of addressing that, to her directly, he instead publicly shamed her. And that's what a lot of us women, we get publicly shamed for just being our true authentic self. And it's like, damned if we do, damned if we don't. Like the pressure of, we want you to be sexy, and then we're sexy. Oh, you're too sexy. You got to be a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets. And it's like, okay, well then you're a mom. So now you're just a mom. You're not a sexy, vibrant woman anymore. You're a mom, and you can't be anything else. And it's like, but men get to do it. Men get to go out here and do it. How come I can't? As a woman. So I think it's just a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then because as women, because we already like internalize a lot of things, like about our appearance, about making sure to be soft enough, but then also making, like, sometimes we're put into situations where we're being too masculine. And then when somebody says, oh, you're being too masculine, I don't want no masculine women.
Right.
It's very confusing, and it's very hard, especially in 2023. And telling us what we can do with our bodies by putting their religious values on the whole country, and saying, for the betterment of the kid, that a woman can't do, she can't get an abortion, she can't, all of these rules. And it's like, how can you tell me how to feel to be a woman? And I hope this doesn't cause any controversy, but then within the LGBTQIA plus community, then we're by other trans women, well, I don't like that always pads cater to women who have cycles. I don't like that. That's anti. And it's like, but we need it, and it's for okay, whatever, I can't, and then if we ask questions, then we're looked at as homophobic, and then, it's kind of like we're fighting within ourselves. And I would say for now, it is a very confusing and hard time for women out here. It really is. And then on top of that, you are seeing a increase in women being assaulted and being harassed and just being, it's just so much. And so it's kind of like, what do you do as a woman? You can't just sit in the house all day and hide from the world. You just try to be the best woman that you can be and navigate the spaces with grace and poise. But it doesn't always be like that. Sometimes we snatching out our edges, hence why I ain't got no edges right now. So it's hard out here.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really hit a lot in that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to gather my thoughts. So you got.
Yeah. Who asked the question? And that's just that ain't even, I don't even want to say that's the tip. That's the tiny tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to give people some kind of history background on why you are seeing an increase of women fighting for their independence, because at one point history, I'm just going to say women, I ain't going to even throw color up in there for now. But women, like just 103 years ago, 1920, that's when women were able to vote. And that only pertained to a certain class of women, a certain group of women. And to even get a driver's license or to get a bank account, you had to depend on a man. Mm-hmm. You had to. It was a way to honestly to survive. And yes, we have revolutionary women throughout history that were able to, break the molds and the barriers. But I kind of want to let people know, like, the history of why women are so hell bent on having more independence and autonomy over their own bodies is because history has stifled us and have oppressed us for so long. And so now, you're seeing this revolution of women taking their rights in their hands and taking their power back.
Yeah. And I think that's very important to really emphasize, is that it's not like it's been 300-400 years since women have had, the right to vote, or it's been 300-400 years since women have had the right to even work. I want to say, like, that's more so, still even more so recent, maybe less than 100 years. Less than, this is more like what, like 80-90 years ago, because that didn't really start until after or during World War II.
Yep, that's when, I want to say, starting World War I actually is when women, because the men were being sent over, and so you started seeing women in factories.
Yeah.
Doing the Industrial Revolution and the war, and showing that, like, I gotta take care of the babies. I gotta do it all until my man, if he comes back, until my husband comes back. And then 9 times out of 10, he's not gonna come back the same because of all the psychological and physical effects, so that's when you started seeing more of the women wearing pants and, baseball and stuff like that. So, so it's kind of like we were forced to go and jump in head first. Mm-hmm. And then that's where you would see more of I would think, like, the more of the masculine women and, things like that, or showing masculine characteristics. So.
Yeah, so I mean, things like that are things that we have to really take into account, and I feel like, at least coming from the perspective of a man, it's not really considered when it comes to why women react or think the way that they do in today's time, because a lot of women have had to deal with a lot of instances of growing up in a home where the dad had to go out and he didn't come back. And so the mom had to take up the arms and do everything else. And then that passed down that mindset of, I don't need to have a man around anymore because I can do it by myself.
Right.
Not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just, it's just the reality of the situation where, when you are in a situation long enough of, I have to find a way to survive, you're going to find a way to survive.
Yeah.
And that causes a lot of mental trauma in and of itself. But I like the thing that you brought up specifically about the Kiki Palmer and the Jonah Hill situations, because it really is a case of insecure men. And really looking at the situation, first, the Kiki Palmer situation is, it wouldn't have been a problem if he would have never said anything online. If it was just, hey, when you get home, we got to talk. Exactly. And him just explaining that. And this is the thing that a lot of people don't realize, is like, there's nothing wrong with explaining or saying, hey, when you did this, this made me feel like this. The problem comes in, and this goes into the Jonah Hill situation. The problem comes in when you're trying to make a demand or make a parameter around your insecurity. So,
and calling it boundaries.
Exactly.
Right. Because it's one thing to say, I feel like this, when you are saying or out here. That's a good point.
Yep, keep it in the house.
I feel like this when you go and do this, or when you act this way. Okay, cool. Yep. I can respect that. But to say, I feel like this, and so you shouldn't do this, that's the problem. Because in a relationship, it always comes down to compromise. You have to be able to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, but I know this is what you like to do. How can we meet in the middle? Okay. Yeah. I don't like the fact that you went out showing your bare cheeks around Usher. All right. Next time you can go out, show your bare cheeks, but let me just be with you. Like, let me be on stage at the same time. That way I feel a little bit more comfortable. That way, at least I can stand in front of you when your cheeks, swinging in front of the camera, instead of, everybody being able to see the jiggle,
Right.
And even with that, I'm gonna have to put a pin. I'm gonna have to stop you right there, because you just a baby daddy, boo boo.
Right.
You're my husband. First of all, secondly, again, I think there's still this, thing around having some sort of control about what a woman wears. I mean, within the community, like the woman community within itself, we do that to each other. Why she got that on? Why she, and I get it if you're because sorry, I lost my train of thought for just a second, but it's like I go back and forth with it, because on one hand, I don't believe that anybody should be policing what somebody wears. I just don't.
Yeah.
Because it's mind the business that have you. Like, it's their business. And I get it if somebody is, well, you're a mother. But we don't say that about men when they take their shirt off. We don't, well, you're a mother. You should not be having your pecs out there. Like, we don't do that. Exactly. So it's like, and that's the unfortunate part about the double standard. So I think it's one thing if you are a boyfriend or or you're co-parenting, you a baby daddy. You ain't even a husband, and you talking and you demanding things of a husband. That's the problem that I have with it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly, because one thing that I love to say is, you don't get to make wife/husband statements on the salary of a boyfriend/girlfriend.
That part right there.
Because you don't really have the same rights until you want to make that full commitment and say, this is who I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. You don't get to say, and honestly, even then, it's not even fair to demand someone to act or dress a certain way.
Exactly.
Right. It is always about compromise and saying, hey, this is what I'm feeling. Exactly. It's like, this is what I'm feeling. This is how I would prefer. But let's talk this out and see where we can meet in the middle, so that not only I feel comfortable, but you feel like you're respected.
And go ahead.
Just real quick, the one thing that I think a lot of men need to take a page out of one person's book, and that is Ice T. Because during that same week when the whole Kiki thing was happening, and also with Jonah Hill, Ice T's wife Coco.
Hmm.
You already know she's a very voluptuous woman. She's always dressed what would be considered very provocative, wearing the, small clothes, little to no clothing. She's a mother, and she posted a picture of her in a string bikini holding, some flags and like Happy 4th of July. And of course, women came in there shaming her and saying, well, you're a mother. Would and Ice T went hard for his woman. He said, hold up, what you not gonna do is talk about me.
Yeah.
Like, shut up, bitch, and all of these things. And that, like, even in his I think his first album, the album cover where he has the girl in the string bikini holding the AK, that was his girlfriend or his first wife. Like, that is an example of a man that is accepting of who she is when he first met her, and still accepting when he put a ring on it and when they had a child together. I still think a lot of it is that mentality is rooted deeply with feeling insecure, feeling inadequate, and maybe not trusting, maybe not trusting themselves and trusting their partner. And again, like, if I notice that Otis is a certain way, I'm just gonna accept him for what he is. I'm not gonna try to change him, and I'm for damn sure it's not gonna shame him, and vice versa. Like, if I dress provocative or anything like that, and that's the way that he met me, when he put a ring on it, that's gonna be the same person that I am, and he's gonna be accepting of that because again, he knew, who.
I had to put
exactly what she
that's
did.
facts.
And I mean, I think that's what it all boils down to. And they even found with Keke Palmer's baby daddy, they found some old tweets of him saying that he projects a lot of his insecurities. And he needs to figure out the reason why. I don't think he found it out because it's been 2-3 years later, and now you done shamed and you did this, and I don't know. I mean, she done took this drama and turned it into dollar bills, because now she got merch with you and Mom Bo, and she keep going on about her. Kiki, keep a check, And even with the whole Jonah Hill situation, I don't think it. I mean, she's an ex-girlfriend now, so that means that she left him. And it's like, you met me when I was a surfer, when I'm wearing bikinis, and I'm an instructor, and I'm going to be around men because it is a male-dominated sport, and you accepted it. You so-called accepted it then, but now that we together, you got a problem with it, and now you're setting these, what did you say, parameters as, oh, these are my boundaries. No, those are not boundaries. Those are oppressive rules that you are putting against somebody because it's rooted in your own or ultimatum, right?
That is good. Yeah.
Ultimatum, where you're instilling all of these unrealistic rules, and it's like, for what? it's no, it's not right.
Yeah, and I think, this one right here, it's giving gas.
Yes. It is. Yeah. It's definitely giving gaslighting.
Yep.
And it definitely doesn't help that social media gives so many of these people, like, especially dudes, like, I ain't gonna lie, like the stuff he said, like Kiki's baby daddy, like, I feel like, bro, like, you could have at least been man enough to say that to your woman. That's your partner. You should be able to have enough of respect for her, love for her, care for her, to talk about that with her in a way where it ain't no shouting match, and it ain't no Twitter fingers, and it ain't gaslighting, it ain't none of that. Because that's your partner at the end of the day. Y'all not in competition with one another. Y'all are a team. So, like, I'm sorry, that was some, I'm gonna say it, that was some sucker clown shit that he did. Like,
it was.
You on Twitter, dude? Like,
yeah.
ain't
I'm mad.
that ain't being no real man. Like for real, that's not handling your like not I don't want to say handling, but addressing the situation in your relationship like you should do as a partner, as a great partner. You don't if Liz do something that I don't agree with, I'm not finna go on Facebook and you know females this or B word that. Like
Doing them subliminal memes.
yeah,
Right.
like, that stuff is lame, man. Like I when I saw that, I was just like, yeah, he finna get dragged to the shadow realm. Like he finna go back.
Deservedly so.
Yes, and
Exactly.
boy, oh boy, did Twitter and I mean, they let him. She didn't have to say nothing.
Mhm.
Yep.
She actually
Like,
came to his defense.
yeah, like I seen it. It's like you know
Yeah.
what. This is the one thing I love about us is that we really rallied together when we needed to, and this is when protecting Black women. This is when it's successful. You know,
Yeah.
when you see people rallying together and be like, "Yo, bro, what you doing?" You know, like I'm seeing men and women,
Yeah.
coming at
Yeah.
him, and I love that, and I want to see more of that,
Yep.
especially within our community because we tend to, you know, kind of drag each other, and it's like,
Unfortunately.
yeah, yeah. So, oh Lord, I wouldn't want to be him right
It's
now.
like what Harley said here. This is one of the reasons why I actually sought out therapy. I noticed that I was trying to change my husband or was getting angry for doing things that were different than how I would have done it. I needed to look at myself and see why.
I
And
love that.
Yes, I do too. Yeah, I love that, Harley.
and I think that I want to say this one piece and then we'll move on. I just even with that, like self accountability, like really looking at what your insecurities are and
Hmm.
really being self aware enough to be human enough to identify what your insecurities are, and what triggers them, where they come from, where do they
Mhm.
stem from. And that's why I like with that tweet that he did, like that really just it rattled me like in a very annoying way because it's like, dude, like Kiki Palmer, first of all, it's Kiki Palmer. Like, don't do that. Like, you should have known Kiki's here and we just discovered who you are.
Right.
Right now, years old when we figured
I
out who
still don't know
you
your name, my guy.
I was it Darius, Deontay? I don't even know. I don't use
D something.
Dan
are, dummy. Oh,
Dummy. That's his name.
yeah, Dummy Jackson. No,
Dummy Jackson.
like he needs to go to therapy and like get his self awareness up because that was lame. Like you don't just do stuff like that because you disrespecting your partner, you disrespecting the relationship, and in a way you disrespecting yourself
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
you expose like what your insecurity is.
Hmm.
And you did it on social media. We're not gonna ever forget that.
Yeah, the internet never forgets.
No, never.
Ever.
Because they sure did pull up a bunch of old tweet of his, and
Right.
it did not bode well.
Nope.
And I think what it also does is open up the door for other people to shame her.
Yeah.
So, like, not only are you shaming her, but then, because of course, you're going to have people that are going to be on, the side of common sense, and then you're going to have the other side. Well, he is right. She shouldn't have, boy, that she is a mom. She need to be staying at home. Now that you a mom, you can't be going out. You can't do this and can't do that. I mean, you have people that are out there, but then you're giving them ammo and the platform to shame her right along with him, and it's just that's not right. That's
Yeah.
not right. So I think that's why it is important to, especially if you are wanting to get into a relationship, a romantic relationship, really take a look at yourself, because there are going to be things that come up.
Mhm.
It's
Yep.
some things that come up even within Otis's and I relationship where I have to be like, oh, I gotta check myself. I feel like I want to like try to tell him what to do. Let me check myself, or I talk about it in therapy. Like I feel this way, and a lot of times it really comes from another place. It normally comes from childhood trauma or some previous trauma that has happened that now it is manifesting in the form of in this romantic relationship.
Yeah.
Yep. I shared a post earlier today. It said, "Be careful getting advice from hurt people because they give advice from their hurt." And I remember years ago, I heard from my pastor in Augusta. We used to say, "Hurt people hurt people and are easily hurt by people." And you see that in these two specific situations that's happened where, two hurt people that have deep insecurities that don't know how to, overcome or heal from them are now allowing their insecurities or their hurt to manifest in ways that hurt the person closest to them.
Exactly.
And in relationships, that's going to happen. You're going to see a situation or something that comes up that's going to trigger a pain point, or it's going to trigger a trauma that's going to manifest. And it's up to you to choose one or two options. Either you're going to respond to that pain and you're going to deal with it, or you're going to react to the trigger and hurt the person that's closest to you.
Exactly.
And a healed person chooses always to respond to the pain and deal with that pain instead of reacting to the person. That it.
Bring it all
preaching all night.
Relationship. No, that is no bueno.
All right.
Been there, done that, wrote a book about it. It does not work out
at all. But I want to go on to our next topic because I feel like we got a pretty good transition talking about women's mental health. Compounded on that, we have Black women in general that deals with a lot, but Black people and all people of color have to deal with some form of trauma or mental health just stemming from the world that we live in, hating people of color. So I will start with you, Liz, let you kind of give your thoughts on that, and then you can jump in after.
For sure.
So I want to acknowledge that as a community, I'm loving what I'm seeing now as far as more Black people. We are talking about therapy. We are talking about the impact of, our upbringing. And I think a lot of us, what we do, especially within our community, is we laugh to keep from crying. So we do it in the form of jokes. Like, I remember, getting whooped by a stitching cord, and we make a whole like joke about it, but it's really like,
that's traumatic.
Yeah.
Like if you, and me personally, I had that revelation a few years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, that was abuse, and having to process that, and then kind of, and this happens when you're in that healing process and doing that inner work, like, well, where is that stemming from? And a lot of it is like some generational trauma, our parents, and then our grandparents, and then their parents, and it goes all the way back to slavery, because that's let's call a thing a thing. It has impacted us then, and is continuously impacting us in ways, specifically with our mental health and our emotional well-being. And so I really like how now on social media, even in movies, with like Wakanda Forever, how they touch on grieving, how they touch on mental health, in such a beautiful way where, all ages can really acknowledge and understand it to a degree. And I'm starting to see more, even men, like I love seeing Black men, help emotionally intelligent Black men. It's great seeing those posts and things that they're doing, like how to be a better father, because they they didn't get that when they were growing up, and
Right.
how to teach other men within their community about how to be, that it's okay to cry, that it's okay to give your bro a hug. There is nothing wrong with,
I sure
showing
do.
that, yeah, showing that softer side.
Yep.
And I like how we're doing therapy now, and we're even getting more spiritual, breaking generational curses. Yes, we are breaking generational curses, and I love seeing it,
Yeah.
and we do it in such a very like creative way.
Mm-hmm.
um and I and I want us to continue to go down that route, to, as women, to not be so masculine, feel like we have to be masculine presenting, but also understanding the reason why. Because, throughout history, again, generational curses, our men, the men being removed in the forms of lynchings and prisons and killings and whatnot, so I just love what I'm seeing, and I kind of wanted to highlight, and I'll, they can provide this in the show notes as well, but there are even more platforms available for us, specifically with women. It's Therapy for Black Girls. Dr. Joy Harden, who has a podcast out there. She has social media where she discusses things from a Black woman's perspective. You also have Jill Scott. She has a dope podcast out that talks about, they talk about the impact of men and women, people of color with mental health. Also, this is like one of my favorite podcasts besides this one, The Read, where you have two queer hosts, Black hosts, that are discussing the trials and tribulations of, the importance of mental health, and also talking about, um the importance of mental health, but also having a little bit of ratchet in there by talking about the Kiki Palmer and the, other situations. So I think now more than ever, there is a ton of information available and ton of resources and support that I didn't even see. I'm going to even say maybe 5, 10 years ago, I didn't see this. And to just to see this now, it's, to me, it's showing that we can really break these curses and get to a better place.
Yeah. It's like she knows my brain. Like I wanted to say a lot of, but no, I seriously, I agree with. I love what I've been seeing as well, especially as a Black man. Like I love seeing and meeting other Black men who are emotionally intelligent and just really emotionally responsible for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I love when I see, like, honestly, me and Gary, we've been friends for so long, never met before, not yet, not yet.
It's coming.
It's coming, man. We check in with one another, just like, hey, man, happy Friday. How's your week been? How's your weekend? Things like that. Like, just simple things like that can go such a long way because
Mm-hmm.
and okay, I'll go into that point too. But we have so many things that we deal with as Black men, just like Black women have things that they deal with, which are probably on a comparative scale is probably a little worse,
Yeah.
because of, like we discussed with the previous question, like just the whole argument about the autonomy over a woman's body. Why is that even a conversation? Why is that even a thing?
Yep.
It's silly.
Very silly.
And I also think that, and I'm starting to see this a lot in our generation, breaking generational curses. We're also pinpointing the whole thing about you don't have to compare trauma A to trauma B to trauma C and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's all trauma. We
Mm-hmm.
all, we've all gone through things where they were the most unfortunate things and we didn't deserve that. And, yeah, we laugh and joke about it and things like that. But I'm seeing more of us go to therapy, myself being in that category.
Hmm.
I I should have been gone to therapy. I won't get into the specifics, but I'm really, really, really glad that I have embarked on the journey of therapy. It's really been helping me a lot. And I think had I gone maybe as little as 5 years ago, like I just could have only imagined how different my life could have been.
Hmm.
But it is what it is. Like I'm here now. I can't look back at the past. Like I'm here now. And I'm just loving that we are really I'm loving that we're making therapy a trending thing. Like that's so cool to me. And it's helping us heal ourselves and, healing thyself is loving thyself.
That's
Yep,
facts.
sure is.
I'm really just loving how we're learning how to grab these traumas and, just be like, you know what? It stops right here.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Kids to raise. I got relationships I care about. I got friends, family, whatnot, careers, because Liz, like you mentioned, it's been more of a creative push with like people going to do music because that's their therapy, or creating works of art because that's their therapy. And we gotta continue like keeping this up.
Hmm.
And because I feel like we owe it to ourselves and one another, because we gotta really stop this cycle of hurt. Like the hurt people. Like we gotta stop that. But it's a process.
Yeah.
It's a
It is.
it takes work, and I always tell people therapy is not it's not an Advil. You don't just take one and it's done and you good.
Yeah.
No, like you keep going and you find a way to heal yourself.
Yeah.
You don't have your vices to lean on. You don't resort to drinking and smoking and you know heavier like drugs and things like that. Like it helps you get away from those vices and really look deeper within and know like, okay, I'm an emotionally responsible person. These are things I need to work on. Where do I start? Where can I get this help from?
Yep.
And when you start doing it, it feels amazing. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the point that you brought out, Liz, about it really going back to slavery. There's this book that I was recommended a few years ago when I went to therapy. Um, uh, once this once that personal wall starts to break down, we feel so much better about navigating life, and we truly deserve it. I love that for us. Therapy is a beautiful thing. It's pure
Yes.
facts,
It
pure
is.
facts. Um, but yeah, there's this book that my therapist recommended to me a few years ago called Post Traumatic Slave Disorder.
Mm.
I haven't read it yet. It's still in
Mhm.
my cart. I plan on reading it, but there's so many different things that happens within our community that you
Yeah.
can point back to either slavery or Jim Crow,
Yep.
segregation, all that stuff. So
Mhm.
you really got to take the time to process, where that pain and that trauma came from,
Yeah.
and find healthy ways to cope with it or to
Yep.
overcome it. Like I was talking about, instead of taking your time to go, get a six pack and going through it in, a 6 hour period,
Yeah.
maybe find another healthy way to handle it, or, occasionally using CBD, or if you're in a legal state, using weed, things like that, that could help, ease the pain and put you in a right frame of mind to, overcome that.
Mhm.
Um, I know for me, it helps me to overcome, certain situations where I'm in a dark space, to just start writing. working on a story or creating characters, things like that. And that
Yep.
usually helps me. So, finding ways, and that's honestly the biggest thing that therapy does for you is help you find ways
Yep.
to deal with your trauma and then give you tools that you can use throughout life that will help you overcome, those triggers or those things that could cause you to fall into that dark space, because you're not meant to, just get trauma and then just keep wearing it every day. You have to let it go. You have to uh, essentially take it off your back, because if
Yeah.
not, that's where the stress comes from. That's where the high anxiety, the depression,
Yep.
and our people suffer from a lot of that. They just don't want to admit to it oftentimes, because then it comes off as, oh, I'm weak.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
love this statement. It takes work and time, but it's all worth it.
All worth
It
it.
It's
is.
always worth it. It's
Oh,
always worth it.
it is so worth it.
Yeah.
It's very, very, like you said, it's very hard work. You gonna ugly cry. You gonna be like, why did I do this? Why am I doing this? And then on the other side, you be like, oh,
Mhm.
Yep.
I'm so glad I did it. And
Yep.
then some more stuff will come up, and then you got to work on that. So
Right.
I like to think that it's a never ending thing, because not only are you working on your generational trauma, it's like a cleansing of the soul,
It
right?
is.
Yep.
Yeah, like you're also like with therapy, you're also dealing with day-to-day
Yeah.
stuff you have to deal with, especially being a person of color,
Mhm.
microaggression, within the workplace. We are surrounded by information on a 24/7 basis. So all the content that we're seeing, and I think as a person of color, um, I want to say, like, you're constantly being told about how nobody likes you for the color of your skin, and then you
Hmm.
have other people that are still like a marginalized group, and then they're struggling with the same thing. But then what I'm trying to say is that there's divide amongst us. Like, we have
Yes.
Asians on one side, we have Hispanics on the other side, we have blacks on this side, and we all are marginalized groups of people going through, terrible, terrible things, terrible racist stereotypes, and
Yep.
yet we are fighting amongst ourselves. And
Hmm.
I just like to say, like, just imagine if we just put our like guard down and really see, like, damn, they got the same issue that we're having, like, we can move mountains. We can start getting to a place where we can collectively help each other,
Yep.
help
Hmm.
other groups of people, so that way we can get rid of all this, systematic racism that's happening among all
Right.
groups, people of color.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up, because a couple weeks ago, affirmative action was officially considered unconstitutional. And the crazy part about this whole thing, so for those that don't know, this case has been going on for about 5 or 6 years. It
Yeah.
finally reached the Supreme Court. I want to say late last year, early this year, and it's been streamlined and headlined by, I want to say, 2 or 3 Asian families. And I was listening to a podcast by the New York Times, and they were talking to quite a few people, asking, how they felt about affirmative action, this and the third. And there was just one Asian girl. She was from South Korea, or her family was from South Korea, and she was saying how, for so long people would say, "Oh, you've been affirmative action," as a negative connotation, saying, "Oh, the only reason you didn't get into the school that you wanted to is because of affirmative action."
Yeah.
And a lot of the negative stereotypes and the negative connotation behind it comes from people
Yeah.
saying that black people and Hispanics only get into colleges because, oh, we need to meet a quota. Um,
Right.
and they use that to divide us, because if you really look at it, affirmative action isn't giving someone from the black or Hispanic community that doesn't deserve to be in like Harvard the opportunity to go to Harvard. It's giving someone like me or like you or like any of our Hispanic brothers and sisters the opportunity to go to Harvard that had the same scores to go to Harvard, but got
Exactly.
overlooked because they had a name that seemed a little too ethnic.
Yep.
So it's like, it's really not disadvantaging anyone. It's actually giving someone else the opportunity that they wouldn't have had, just because we all know if you have the opportunity to choose between someone that doesn't look like you and someone that looks like you, nine times out of 10, you're going to choose the person that looks like you.
Looks like you. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like and I hope people like with I feel like there are so many layers with just affirmative action and just the topic of it and how much division and confusion it has caused. And I think that is the thing, causing confusion, fear mongering, shaming is part of what is keeping us all divided. Because at the end of the day, they still gonna look at you like a nigga. Like, no matter if you're Black, if you're Hispanic, if you're Middle Eastern, like it's you're some version of that. It's unfortunate, but it's like, if we all can just see that and educate ourselves and gain the knowledge is really power, y'all. We gain the knowledge, we can really just like knock these doors down that these racist people are trying to build up, and we can really conquer the world. I'm telling y'all, but that's another subject for another day.
So our next and final topic is a doozy, but we are going to talk about healing childhood trauma. And what I specifically want to talk about is it's three things. One, how do you go about healing childhood trauma? And then two, what are some ways that you can continuously heal the childhood traumas that continue to come up throughout your life? And then finally, I want to talk about, in what ways do you see childhood trauma affecting your life personally?
Whew. Okay, I might have to have you repeat those questions. Okay, what was the first one? I will start with the first one.
The first one, how do you heal childhood trauma? I can't make a promise on that one, Karina. I can't make a promise on that
one. Wow. I think admitting that there has been some childhood trauma, like acknowledging, like, okay, this abuse happened, or constantly being manipulated in some form or fashion, or whatever the case may be, but like acknowledging it. Just like with anything else, when you have an issue with substance abuse or with gambling and other addictive type things, like the first step is really just admitting it, recognizing and admitting it, and then seeking the help. Now, I know, like, especially in the first time I was here, I was saying, you deserve therapy.
Therapy.
I still stand by that. However, therapy does not fix everything.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't came that far yet, y'all.
No.
It ain't. It's not going to fix everything. However, it will help you unpack. Like, imagine being abused as a child and you never told anybody. You've been holding that in, and it's been manifesting in a psychological way, in an emotional way, where you're lashing out. When you get into relationships you don't trust, you're feeling you're feeling insecure, you're having abandonment issues, and then that stress that you wear in your body, that turns into hypertension. It turns into, maybe it can manifest into where you're overeating, and then that causes it's a domino effect. So That's what but after I acknowledged the thing that helped me was to confront the person that caused the trauma. That
Mm,
came through therapy, and I'm thankful that's a weight off of me. Exactly.
that's
Like
deep.
imagine getting to a place where at first you didn't speak on it at all and you've been holding it in, and then you go to somebody like a therapist or a counselor and you talk about it. Just think about when you hold something in. Like think about when you're holding in a fart and then you finally release it and you like, wow. Healing that childhood trauma is like releasing trapped gas. Once it is out, you feel great, and then you're able to talk about it. And in some instances, you're able to even get to a point where you're confronting, because that childhood trauma can be coming from a parent. It could be your mom,
Mhm.
it could be your dad, it could be your sibling, it could be whoever, your caregiver, whoever your caregiver was. And just even getting to a place where you're like, okay, I'm healthy, I've learned my coping techniques, and now I can confront this person. Do you know what that does, like to a person? And it can, it'll either do one or two things. It's either going to bring people together, or that other person might not be receptive to it, and that's
Yeah.
and that's fine. But just getting to that point where you're able to like learn and heal and grow from it. But it all starts with like acknowledging it, and then trying to also seek some assistance with it.
I agree with that. And I'll piggyback off of that point with, in addition to acknowledging like what the traumas are or have been, I think from that point, that's when you start a plan of action, figuring out how, okay, I know this happened to me. How do I deal with it in a healthy way that is conducive to my life? It's adding years to my life, not chipping away at my soul. You
Mm-hmm.
know, let me figure out, okay, I don't want to drink this trauma away because it's never going to be at the bottom of that bottle. It already happened. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And resources like therapy and counseling are really keys. And I really think that, as like you said earlier, as great as therapy is, it doesn't fix everything, but we know off real, we know that to be a fact. It's not gonna undo the trauma, it's not gonna undo the pain, but it will help you pack and release, that situation, and let it die. Let it fester, let it go away,
Mhm.
and as you do therapy more, go to more of those counseling sessions and find other healthy ways to deal with it, you just start to feel better.
Mhm.
And it's like one of my actually my sister Carissa, she told me like a while ago just how important it is to kind of nurse your inner child. Like really hug yourself, like hug that inner child and really speak life into him or her. And all those things that your mom may have said about you or your dad, or that tough relationship you were in, like really hold that child close, hold yourself close, and just speak life into yourself. Like, you not stupid. You're supposed to be here. You have a purpose. You are loved. You are loved. You have strength. You are strong. Things like that.
Yep.
And it takes time. Like Karina said, it takes time, but it's all worth it.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I love this. Therapy is a tool for us to overcome things, but what really makes a difference is how we deal with those things and our mentality on what happened and where we might go from there.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's really
You
good.
know, because I could talk all day and night long about a lot of things that I went through in my childhood, and honestly, at 31 years of age, I'm still working through it. Like, it's gonna take time. Like, I still deal with a lot of my triggers. Like, one of my triggers is when somebody's loud. Like, when they're talking really loud to me, I feel like they're yelling at me. even though I know that they're not yelling at me, maybe they're just loud. Like some people, we all know a loud person, and if you don't know one, you the loud person.
Right.
So you but yelling for me, like it takes me back to parts of my childhood where that was the communication, that was the realm of communication in the house. Like everything was just, why you ain't do this? And instead of doing all of that, it could just be like, yo, you didn't do so and so, handle that. Make sure
Hmm.
you take care of that.
Yeah.
Because when that was going on, like, and I got that for a good portion of my life. So now it's like in the long run, I don't know how to handle criticism per se sometimes, where it's like this person probably isn't out to hurt me, but I know that now as the person that I am now, but that inner child is just like, nah, they yelling at me, I'm finna shut down. I can't handle this. Like it freaks me out.
Hmm.
So just acknowledging it and figuring out what the healthy habit is to maintain what you've already acknowledged. Like Gary, you says you right. Some people smoke weed, whatever. And I think those things are okay. Everybody's different.
Hmm.
Like mine changes. I'm still kind of figuring out what my go-to thing is that's healthy. I might create something, I might hop on the game, I might go for a walk, you know, because before it was that six pack, I'm gonna go
Mm-hmm.
I'm finna, roll a fatty and smoke all night and, eat this Chinese food or pizza, whatever, and then it's like you do that so much and you just like, bruh, like I don't feel good. Like
Yep.
You feel
it's
worse.
you feel worse. Like this
Yep.
is not the moves. Like what do I need? How do I need to move from here to get away from this space? And when you find that your adult self feels it and you still are nurturing that inner child, because now that inner child is growing up to be the person that you wanted to be before all of that trauma, or you know despite what those things were that were said to you that came from your mom or a friend or whomever.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely agree with y'all on your points. Only thing I will add to what you both have said is after you one day it just hits you and you realize one thing or some things need to change. Yeah, actually that's literally what happened to me. One day it was just like, I'm tired of having the same results, thinking that I'm doing something different or doing the same thing and
Yep.
not really changing. So
Yep.
um, for me, the biggest thing that I realized that needed to happen to start to heal childhood trauma, and for me, was realizing two things. One, it wasn't my fault. And then two, I had no control. One of the things that, especially for people who are perfectionists or people who have different quirks and different idiosyncrasies, they come from a childhood where you had no control. And
Yeah.
when you have no control, you want to try to get control back. So you find
Yep.
ways to get control.
Yep.
And to release that control, you have to realize that back then you had no control and there was no way that you was going to be able to get control. You're a
Yep.
child. It's not
Yep.
on you to have control of a situation.
Yep.
Either your parents dropped the ball somewhere or whomever was watching you drop the ball somewhere. Something happened along the way where someone in charge did not have control over the situation that they were supposed to. And that's where the trauma came from. So you
Yep.
first have to forgive yourself in that situation for allowing yourself to put that guilt on you. And then two,
Yeah.
you have to allow yourself to realize that you had no control over it. And
Yep.
once you go through those steps, you can then start to heal from that, because then you're coming from a space of, okay, this happened to me. I didn't cause this to happen.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
once you get to that point, you have a much easier path because you're no longer fighting yourself. A lot of times we fight ourselves when we try to heal, because it's like, uh, I shouldn't be doing this, I shouldn't be drinking, I shouldn't be smoking all the time, I shouldn't be overeating everything. But what happened back then, it was so traumatic, I couldn't deal with it. So, I deserve this. I have to do this to make myself feel better. And that is you fighting yourself because you want to get better, you want to heal, but you're not allowing yourself to, because you're using that situation as a crutch because you still haven't forgiven yourself.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, it becomes easier. I like that. What happens to you is not your
It's
identity.
not your identity.
Yeah.
Man.
That is
Yes.
facts.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't even have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I was going to ask the other two questions, but we kind of just hit all of it at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if it happens to you guys, but the older I get, the more I want to protect kids. Oh, yes. I'm
Yeah.
like, how did no one see a problem with certain situations when I was a kid?
Yeah.
That
That's the
part.
topic. That is
I,
the topic.
yes, I almost, okay, I almost fought this lady at Walmart because
Was going to have to put up her books, y'all. Was going to have to put up her books.
Because this baby I was in the checkout. I had a cart full of stuff, and this lady next to me, she is cussing this child out like a grown man, and this baby just learned how to walk. You look, maybe between 1 and 2 years old, wanting some candy, and just calling them the N word, a B, and the B word, and I found myself kind of going back to when I was a kid, like, no, oh no, oh hell no, we're not doing this. And I said, you know what, ma'am, I can get the baby some candy. It's just a baby, they don't know anything. And and she just really proceeded to go in on me, and that's when I almost lost it to the point where I just had to just walk away and leave my cart there and leave before I put my hands on her, because the way that she was going in, and I'm like, if you're doing that in public, imagine what you are doing behind closed doors. Right. And this is something that I want to say to current parents and new parents and people who want to be parents in the future. Heal your childhood trauma so you could break that generational curse and stop putting that pressure on these babies. I see it so many times, especially these women who, get with certain men, and the men don't work out, and that baby reminds them of the man that hurt them, and so they inflict that hurt and that pain, and they pass it down to that child. It ain't that baby's fault. Exactly. It ain't that baby's fault. I learned from having children that what was done to me or how I was brought up, I didn't have to do. Exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I see it so much that, like, I have to walk away like I did at the Walmart in order not to, insert myself. But I think it is so important that, we don't inflict that same pain that was done to us, and it is up to us to recognize that and to acknowledge it. And so again, especially the ones who want to become parents, before you even do that, please deal with their childhood. Please do. Sometimes people just get excited about having a baby, but they don't think about the responsibility. Exactly. There is a new level of responsibility that comes with being a parent. Yep. And one of them is making sure that not only are we providing a physical safety, but also mental and emotional safety. Yep. Oftentimes, and I really see this within our community, where don't talk, our elders don't talk back to your elders, but they can be very disrespectful and call you out your name, but then we still have to, be solid.
Yes,
No.
sir. No, sir.
Yes, kids are still human beings. They're not
Mhm.
property. Just because you birthed them, that don't mean you have to be disrespectful. Treat them with the utmost respect, because then they grow up and think that it's okay to be disrespected. They think it's okay. Um,
That is facts. We don't have a
Facts.
village anymore.
We do not have a village anymore. I remember being a kid and I can go outside and everybody was so tight knit to where my neighbor could reprimand me. She could pop me on the butt if she heard me say a curse word, or if I was being, bad, being a baby kid or whatever. And the same thing, my dad can go out and spank somebody's child, take them home to their mama, and then their mama was thank you, and then spank their butt and send them to their room. You know, and I'm not saying that beating, spanking your child, it's debate about that, but respect
That's
to be earned
facts.
even if you're a parent. Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
But I do think that we have gone away from that, village mentality, and now you got, don't be telling me what to do. You can't tell me what to do with my child. Well, somebody need to tell you what to
Somebody
do,
clearly needs to.
Yeah.
because that child is going to grow up and wreak havoc, because again, generation is going from one generation to the other. So
Yeah.
I can't emphasize that enough. Please, parents, new parents, want to be parents, please do that healing. And the ones that are doing the healing and putting in the work, tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. Like, give yourself a pat on the back, because I know it's hard. Like, not only being a parent, but then you gotta parent yourself and parent your inner child. That's
Mhm.
some hard work. And sometimes we end up having to parent our parents, which can
Mhm.
trigger childhood trauma within itself. So
Man,
it's a lot of parenting.
yep. But some parents, some of these parents need they asses whooped the way that they whoop their child. Like, and I'm a more than willing participant to issue out said ass whoopings. Like, some parents didn't get their asses whooped enough. Okay, I'm sorry. Like, because I'm thinking about that Walmart situation. I wasn't there, but you know how I am about kids. I love children. I do.
Yeah.
Like, I I protect kids, like, because I remember moments where I needed protection and I didn't have anybody to protect me when I needed it most. So that put me in that position to learn how to better protect myself. And anytime I see a situation like that, like, I'm on guard. Like, it's too many of these babies out here going through that abuse. And some, like, even I know we had a little girl here. I want to say it was earlier this year or last year, killed herself. Like, from she was getting abused at home, getting bullied at school. I think she was maybe all of 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah. And
Jeez.
it's sad, and you do have to consider, like, some child, back then, where before social media, it's one thing, but to add on the social media where you're getting abused at home, then you go to school, you're getting bullied and abused, but then you having to deal with another type of abuse through cyberbullying.
Yeah.
Like, that is a lot for a child to have to do that. Emotionally immature people having kids, expecting their kids to fix their problems too.
Mm.
Having a baby does not fix your problems, y'all.
No, it does not.
It does not fix the relationship. It does not fix your inner problems. It doesn't. History has shown
Yeah.
it doesn't. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, I've actually ended friendships from people where I've seen that they continuously have kids knowing that they don't necessarily want them, but yet they're not doing what they need to do to ensure that they're protecting themselves. And
Now that's
then,
toxic.
yeah, and then, also is kind of having that expectation that, well, I'm gonna continue to do this, but everybody else take care of my kids, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Mm-mm.
like, do that inner work. It
Right.
do it. Please.
Pretty much.
Well, I have
Uh,
loved this conversation. I
Yes.
hope we ain't make none of y'all cry. Karina, let us know if we did.
we didn't mean to make you cry, but tonight
No.
traumatized.
But final thoughts on this topic of mental health across the board. We'll let you give us your first final thoughts, Liz, and then we'll jump to
Okay, so my final thoughts are,
She did too.
especially just overall, this day and age, we
Right.
reading the good news of the newspaper page. Earth is trash. I get it. Like, see what I did there? Earth is trash right now. It is so much that is going on. And so I think that it's very important that you um I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we are filtering out the things that we see, also showing ourselves some grace. And
mm,
when you are in a place of where you have finally like acknowledged that you need the help. And I know how scary therapy can be. It can be a process finding a therapist, going to one, be like, I don't like her, and then finding another one and another one and another one. But I'm just here to tell you, we all are here to tell you that it's well worth it. There are so many resources out there available that are free, that are from reputable people. You're starting to see more. Specifically within our community, Black and Brown people, we are starting to see more Black people, Asians, Hispanics in the mental health space. There
Yep.
is somebody that looks like you, that grew up the way that you did, that can help you get to the next step of your life. Um, so one, just a couple of resources. One is 988 suicide. It's the suicide and crisis lifeline. You just on your phone, you could just dial 988 and it will connect you to somebody. It's 24/7. Whenever you're in a mental health crisis and you feel like you need some help, definitely hit them up. You could text them, you could just Google it and it will give you all the information that you need. In the St. Louis area, there is a program called BHR, which is Behavioral Health Response. Their website is bhrsto.com. I have used them a few times, especially at the beginning of my mental health journey, where they will provide you with a plethora of resources here locally in the St. Louis region, St. Louis in the Metro East, which is Illinois area. And then also just one, I've already talked about Dr. Joy Harden with the therapy for Black girls, but also Dr. Tracy Marks. I've been telling Otis about it and been sending him videos and stuff, but she is a Black child or Black psychologist who makes mental health and educational videos, and they're really simple. She has like her current series is about emotional regulation.
mm.
Everything that's going on in the world right now, where it's so much chaos, we need to learn how to regulate our emotions, um, to be able to like grow and thrive in this crazy chaotic world. So I just encourage, people to just check them out and show yourself some grace. I'm telling y'all this, but I'm also telling myself this. Show yourself some grace, some patience, and some understanding. And always bet on Black. That's all I gotta say.
I love it. Yeah, pretty much the same thing for me. Show yourself grace, show yourself grace, show yourself grace. Love on yourself. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself. I'm very, very much speaking to myself on that. Um, I'm really, as I've been going through my therapy journey, I'm really learning how much of a perfectionist I am and have been, I guess. Um, and it makes so much sense, but that's a part of that journey of therapy, and the journey of emotional maintenance and emotional responsibility, self-awareness, and things like that. Like, really tapping into those things about yourself that maybe you don't necessarily enjoy, or maybe you just don't even know about,
Mm,
because there's still a lot of things that I don't know about myself yet, and none all of us are still learning about ourselves,
Mhm.
like there's no certain age or certain amount of time or certain amount of experiences that qualify you to tell somebody about themselves, especially when you don't even know who you are. You still learning who you are. We all still are, and you just keep on, like, betting on yourself, keep, inspiring yourself, and sit with other people that have the same goals as you. Be around like-minded people
If you don't take
who
it,
will take care of you if you don't take care of yourself.
that's facts.
exactly. Yep.
Yep.
So true.
Yeah, like, just keep loving on yourself, never give up on yourself, and just always have grace within yourself as well as other people. Like, we all out here trying our best. We That's my motto. Like, whenever people whenever people ask me, like, if I make mistakes at my job, they're like, "Otis, what are you doing?" My best, bro. Like, that's all I got to give is my best. Like,
Yeah.
and be willing to be teachable.
Mm,
Like, really be willing to be teachable. We don't know everything. As great as that, actually, I don't know if that would be a great thing. It might be terrifying. I don't
yeah.
want to know everything. So
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
it's bliss, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
G, what you?
Final thoughts. Honestly, I'm gonna repeat the same thing you two have said. Just have grace with yourself. That's probably the hardest thing for anybody to do. For me, in my journey of just like understanding who I am and going through therapy and dealing with my childhood traumas and things of that nature, I realized like I'm extremely hard on myself. I expect to hit a certain standard, and if I don't hit that standard, I'll like beat myself down. So
Mm.
learning to have grace and be like, okay, failing isn't acceptable, but it's okay if you don't get it right the first time because no one ever gets it right the
Oh,
first time every time. So just having grace with yourself, learning to heal, and healing is a journey, just one foot in front of the other. There's nothing wrong if one step is slower than someone else's. Your journey is meant for you, not the world around you. That
Yes.
is key. That's the
Yeah.
other thing. Do
Thanks.
not compare yourself. That
yep,
is where the anxiety, that's where the depression, that's where that's going to have a big root.
Doubt.
Because if you compare yourself to, like, if I compared myself to where Otis was at, or if I compared myself to some other comic book creators, I would completely and utterly stay in the gutter. I would never be
yeah,
in an upbeat mindset. But if you don't compare yourself, if you just like, hey, I'm doing better than I was yesterday. I'm doing better than I was 5 hours ago. I'm doing better
Yep.
than I was 5 minutes ago. Just
yep,
take those small steps and just realize like, okay, I'm doing everything I can to get better, and I'm just going to use each step to build up on the next.
Yep.
yep.
That is facts. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Oh, yes.
Hmm.
So, we are going to definitely bring Liz back on when we do season 3, probably before then, but we'll
Mhm.
see. But this is going to
I'll
be
be
a
here.
recurring thing for sure.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. Like, yes.
Absolutely.
For sure. Thank you for jumping in and sharing your wisdom with us. Everyone who's been on for this time frame, thank you also for being on with us. Next week, we are going to be talking with our friend David. He is going to be doing a new series with us. We're
Yeah.
very excited for. It's going to be a writing series, but just a creation series in general. We're going to start out just talking about how to create compelling characters. So tune in this time next week as we break that down, go over internal conflicts. So that's going to be fun.
Ooh,
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
as we proceed, no, just
Give you what you need.
kidding.
All
Yeah,
right.
um,
Well,
that's it. That's all, folks.
until next time, this has been the Bearded Blur Brothers. I'm Gary.
I'm Big O.
Oh, and
And
I'm Lavender Lizzie.
y'all have a good one.
Signing out. Peace.